Hey everyone, this is Music Tech Help Guy, and welcome to this first look and overview of the new features in iZotope OZONE 8. As many of you know, I've used Ozone on hundreds of recordings in the past, and it's one of my all-time favorite plugins for mixing and especially for mastering. So when version 8 came out, I wanted to be quick in doing an overview of it. Just keep in mind that this is not a full tutorial by any means, just an overview of the new features. I plan on doing several Ozone mastering tutorials for various genres in the future. So the first most obvious difference between Ozone 7 and Ozone 8 is the interface. The interface has been completely redone, including all of the modules, to this nice new sleek look. Next is the new Master Assistant. So if you've seen the Track Assistant in iZotope's Neutron plugin, this is very similar to that, but for mastering. It helps as a quick starting point for mastering. You have 3 targets to choose from: streaming, CD, and reference. Let's start with streaming. This sets up a mastering chain that is optimized for mastering for streaming platforms that often have loudness reduction or normalization built into the platform. So for example, if you master an album or a single or an EP to CD format, it may not sound the same when it's uploaded to Spotify after the loudness normalization algorithm kicks in. And this creates a suggested mastering chain based on analyzing the EQ and dynamics of the track.
They'll set your soul ablaze. Your darkest hour, it reignites your flame. Don't tell me that you've got another, that you tell you're in love. In a world so fucking cold, I can't pull truth out of the darkness. Waiting for my last chance, living for the life where I never have to lose you again. So much more to life than bringing.
Next is CD. CD masters typically allow for more dynamic range and spectral range because it's not being streamed as a compressed format. So because CD masters aren't being played back to back with other songs that are from different albums or different artists, like on a streaming platform like Spotify, there's no loudness reduction or loudness normalization to deal with, and you get the most freedom here, and typically the greatest range of loudness too. You get 3 intensity options here too: low, medium, and high. So for heavy rock or pop, you can choose medium or high, or for softer acoustic music, for example, you can choose low. This sets the intensity for the master, and how loud it is, and how harsh the spectral changes are too. With the reference target, this gives you the ability to import a reference track, and you can actually add up to 10 reference tracks too, so you could import an entire album and reference the entire album as opposed to just referencing one song. So this allows you to audibly compare other mixes and masters to your current track in your session, but it also intelligently splits up and sectionalizes the reference tracks. To hear your reference track, just hit the I button here and then press spacebar. Deselect the I button to hear your current track again. Not only can you manually listen to the reference track, you can also use this reference track along with the Master Assistant. So this will attempt to match the EQ and dynamics of your current track to the reference track. So this is a great tool for mastering EPs or albums. All of the old modules from Ozone 7 are here, but there is one new module, the Spectral Shaper. The Spectral Shaper allows you to smooth out problematic harsh frequencies. So the way this works is you solo the selected range and move it over the problematic frequency range. Then click Listen to hear the material that's going to be reduced, and then pull down the threshold to smooth out the content. There's 3 intensity modes for processing: light, medium, and heavy. I find this module most useful on smoothing out hi-hats, smoothing out overly bright or overly saturated mixes, which I often get from my clients, and also controlling overly bright or saturated vocals. Let's try this out on an oversaturated recording of my voice.
Too many nightmares, they'll take you piece by piece. You're just a loser with your lines cut so deep. Don't tell me that you've got another excuse for your failure. Too many nightmares, they'll take you piece by piece. You're just a loser with your lines
As for the other modules, the equalizer, vintage EQ, vintage compressor, dynamics module, dynamic EQ, imager, and vintage limiter, all of these are pretty much the same as in Ozone 7, just with an updated look and some updated terminology. For example, I like how the dynamic EQ now says upward or downward compression as opposed to inverse mode. So let's take a look at the modules that have some changes and updates. The vintage tape now has a 7.5 IPS speed in addition to the 15 and 30 IPS speeds. This is nice if you really want to warm your audio. The more inches per second, the more high-end bias you're going to have, and the less inches per second, the more warm the track is going to sound. The exciter module is almost identical to version 7, but it now has a new analog tone color in addition to the other 6 tone colors that were previously available in Ozone 7. The analog color is essentially an analog solid-state console tone color. So imagine taking your digital mix and punching it through 2 channels of an SSL analog console without any other effects. That's essentially the idea here, is grabbing the analog solid-state tone color of a console. In Ozone 7, you could only choose 1 tone color for the entire exciter module. In Ozone 8, you can actually choose 4 separate tone colors. The maximizer module has been improved as well. It now has an IRC-LL mode, which is essentially a low latency limiting mode. It also has a new learn threshold feature. I think this is one of the coolest new features. You can set a target loudness level in LUFS, say -10 LU for example, and then the limiter will automatically learn the threshold at which to limit that loudness level. So this takes the guesswork out of using a loudness meter and is a real time saver. Lastly, on the maximizer, you can now independently control or link the transient and sustained stereo interdependence. Previously in version 7, you could stereo unlink the left and right channels, but you couldn't independently control the transient and sustained material, so that's really cool too. Other controls like bypass, gain match, stereo or mono, swap channels, MP3 and AAC codec preview, and dithering are all the same. They've just updated the look. The last new thing I want to show you is the new tonal balance control. Now this is basically its own plugin that comes with the advanced version of Ozone, and it's really cool. You're going to put this as the last plugin on your master fader or master output, and you can choose one of 3 targets: bass heavy, modern, or orchestra. And these targets are a combined frequency analysis of tens of thousands of professionally produced masters. Then I can see whether the low, low-mid, high-mid, and high ranges are within acceptable tolerances of most professional masters. You can also view this in fine view for more detail as opposed to broad view. You can also create a custom curve by importing 1 or more songs from your personal library. So if your client says, I want the tone of our masters to be similar to a particular song or album by another artist, you can use that song or songs as a mastering reference point. And lastly, you can use the tonal balance control to crosstalk and adjust any other Ozone EQ or post EQ or any neutron EQs as well. Alright, so that's my quick first look at the new Ozone 8 plugin suite. I really like what they've done with the plugin, and I'm really looking forward to using it on many masters in the future. If you like this video, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.